Una Park stepped off the transport ship and took her first breath of recycled station air. It smelled like metal and cleaning chemicals. Not exactly the fresh mountain air of her hometown in Korea, but she would get used to it. She had to. This was her new home for the next 3 years. Galactic Station Horizon 7 floated in the empty space between 3 solar systems. It was a meeting place for dozens of alien species. Humans had only joined the galactic community 5 years ago, and Una was one of the first ambassadors sent to live permanently on a multi-species station. She felt the weight of that responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. A small robot guided her through the winding corridors. The station was massive. Thousands of beings lived here, worked here, raised families here. Una passed creatures she had only seen in training videos. Tall insect-like beings with 4 arms. Short furry creatures that walked on 6 legs. Floating jellyfish things that communicated through color changes in their transparent bodies. Nobody looked at her. Nobody greeted her. She was just another new arrival in a place that had seen countless new arrivals before. The robot stopped in front of a door, marked with human letters and a symbol she did not recognize. "Your quarters, Ambassador Park," the robot said in a flat voice. "Your neighbors are Velthari. Please review cultural guidelines before initiating contact." The robot rolled away before Una could ask any questions. She had read about the Velthari during her training. They were one of the oldest species in the galactic community. They looked like giant cats that walked on 2 legs. Adults stood about 8 feet tall. They had thick fur, usually in shades of gray or brown. Their eyes could see perfectly in complete darkness. Their claws could cut through metal long ago. They had been the top predators on their home planet. They hunted in family groups and ruled their world for millions of years before developing technology. Even now, as a spacefaring civilization, they kept many of their old ways. They valued strength, silence, and control. They did not trust easily. They did not make friends easily. The training manual had one clear piece of advice about living near Velthari. Do not bother them. Una entered her quarters and looked around. The room was small but clean. A bed, a desk, a small kitchen area, a bathroom. One window showed the stars outside. She could see a distant nebula, purple and pink against the blackness of space. She began unpacking her bags. Clothes, books, a tablet computer, some photos of her family. At the bottom of her largest bag, she found a box her mother had packed without telling her. Inside were small things from home. A wooden fan painted with flowers. A packet of her favorite tea. Some traditional snacks. And for some reason, a bright red rubber ball, the kind children played with in schoolyards. Una smiled and shook her head. Her mother always worried that she would be lonely. The ball was probably meant to remind her of simpler times, of playing in the park as a child. She set it on her desk and continued unpacking. A noise from the hallway made her stop. Heavy footsteps. Multiple sets of them. Then a deep voice speaking in a language that sounded like growling mixed with purring. Una moved to her door and opened it slowly. She wanted to meet her neighbors. The training manual said not to bother them, but surely a simple greeting would be acceptable. Humans believed in being friendly to neighbors. It was polite. The Velthari family stood in the hallway outside the quarters next to hers. Una's breath caught in her throat. The training videos had not prepared her for seeing them in person. The male was enormous. His shoulders were twice as wide as hers. His fur was dark gray, almost black, and his yellow eyes seemed to glow in the station's artificial light. He wore a military uniform with many symbols and medals. This had to be Commander Tarek. She had been told a high-ranking Velthari officer lived on this level. Beside him stood a female, slightly smaller but no less impressive. Her fur was lighter gray with white patches. Her eyes were green and sharp and missed nothing. She had to be his mate, Selith. And then Yuna saw the cubs, 3 of them. They came up to her chest in height, which meant they were probably still very young by Veltari standards. The largest one had his father's dark fur and stood very straight, trying to look serious and adult. The middle one had her mother's green eyes and kept looking around with obvious curiosity. The smallest one had messy fur that stuck up in all directions, and he was currently trying to climb his father's leg. Yuna raised her hand in a small wave. "Hello," she said. "I am Yuna Park. I am the new human ambassador. I will be living next door. It is nice to meet you." Commander Tarek looked at her. His face showed nothing. No warmth, no hostility, just nothing. He gave her a single short nod, the smallest possible acknowledgement of her existence. Then he turned and walked into his quarters. Saleif gathered the cubs quickly. She looked at Yuna with an expression that was harder to read. Not angry, but not welcoming either. Careful, watchful, the way a mother looks at anything that comes near her children. "Come," Saleif said to the cubs. Her voice was lower than Yuna expected, almost a rumble. The 2 older cubs followed their mother immediately. But the smallest one, the messy-furred troublemaker, stopped and stared at Yuna. His eyes were bright gold, full of curiosity. His tail swished back and forth. "Tal," Saleif said sharply. "Now." The cub named Tal blinked at Yuna one more time, then turned and ran into his home. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss. Yuna stood alone in the hallway. The silence pressed against her ears. No sound from the Veltari quarters. No sound from anywhere. The corridor was empty and cold-dot. She went back into her room and sat on her bed. This was going to be harder than she thought. The Veltari clearly wanted nothing to do with her. 3 years of living next to neighbors who would not even speak to her. 3 years of silence. She looked at the red ball on her desk. Such a small, silly thing. A toy for children. She picked it up and squeezed it. The rubber was smooth and firm. She had not played with a ball like this in 20 years. Yuna put the ball back on the desk and started preparing for her first day of work tomorrow. She had meetings with station administrators, documents to review, protocols to learn. She did not have time to worry about unfriendly neighbors, but as she fell asleep that night, she kept thinking about the little cub named Tal and the way his golden eyes had looked at her with such open curiosity. Maybe not all the Veltari were as cold as they seemed. 2 weeks passed on Horizon 7. Yuna fell into a routine. Wake up, drink tea, go to work, come home, eat dinner, sleep. The days blurred together. Her job was mostly paperwork and meetings. She represented human interests on the station, which meant sitting in long conferences and trying to understand alien politics. The Veltari family next door remained silent. Yuna saw them sometimes in the hallway, but they never spoke to her. Commander Tarak would nod, just barely. Saleif would guide the cubs past without a word. The cubs would look at Yuna with curious eyes, but they had learned not to stop. Yuna tried not to take it personally. This was just how Veltari were. They did not make friends easily. They did not trust outsiders. She was an outsider. Simple as that, but the silence was starting to wear on her. She missed conversation. She missed laughter. She missed the simple feeling of being around people who actually wanted to talk to her. The other humans on the station were friendly enough, but they lived in different sections. She could not visit them every day. One morning, Yuna was running late for a meeting. She grabbed her tablet, her identification card, and her bag. She rushed out the door, her mind already on the agenda for the day. She did not see the red ball fall out of her bag. The ball hit the metal floor with a loud smack. Then it bounced, and bounced again. The hallway was made of hard metal, and the ball was made of good rubber. It bounced higher and higher, making a sound like gunshots in the quiet corridor. Thwack, thwack. The ball flew down the hallway, hit a wall, bounced off at an angle, and rolled toward the Volthura quarters. He froze. The noise had been so loud. The Valkyrie valued silence. She had probably just woken up the entire family. Commander Tarak would be furious. This was exactly the kind of disturbance the training manual had warned her about. She hurried after the ball, ready to grab it and apologize if necessary. But she was not fast enough. A small shape burst out from behind a corridor pillar. It was Tal, the youngest Valkyrie cub. He must have been hiding there, watching the hallway like a little hunter. His golden eyes were huge. His pupils had become thin slits, then suddenly expanded into wide circles. His ears pointed forward. His tail went completely straight and stiff. He was locked onto the ball like it was prey. Yuna opened her mouth to say something, but Tal was already moving. He launched himself at the ball with all the power his small body could produce. His claws extended. His teeth showed in a tiny snarl of concentration that he missed. The ball bounced away just as he landed. Tal tumbled forward, rolled across the floor, and crashed into the wall with a soft thump. Any other creature would have been hurt or embarrassed. But Tal just jumped up immediately, his eyes never leaving the ball. He chased it again, and missed again. The ball bounced off his paw and flew in a completely different direction. Yuna watched with her hand over her mouth. She did not know if she should laugh or be terrified. She had never seen a Valkyrie move like this. Tal was like a spring made of fur and energy. He bounced off walls, slid across the floor, twisted in midair. He was fast and clumsy and absolutely determined to catch this ball. Then she heard a new sound. A sound she had never heard before. Chirping. Tal was making a high-pitched chirping noise as he chased the ball. It was the happiest sound Yuna had ever heard. It was the sound of pure joy. Another door opened. Kira, the middle cub with the green eyes, poked her head out. She saw her brother chasing the red ball. Her ears went up. Her eyes went wide. She ran out and joined the chase. Now there were two cubs sliding across the hallway, crashing into each other, chirping and growling and making sounds that were almost like laughter. The ball bounced between them, always just out of reach, always moving in unexpected directions. Yuna stepped back against the wall. She was smiling so hard, her face hurt. She had never seen anything like this. The cubs were playing. Really, truly playing. Like kittens chasing a toy on Earth, like children in a schoolyard. A third shape appeared. Rin, the oldest cub, stood in the doorway of the Valkyrie quarters. He was trying very hard to look dignified. He was the eldest. He was almost an adult. He was too mature for such childish games. The ball bounced directly toward him. Rin's eyes followed it. His tail began to twitch. His paws flexed. Yuna could see the internal battle happening inside him. Dignity versus instinct. Maturity versus the overwhelming desire to chase the bouncy thing. Instinct won. Rin pounced. He caught the ball in his claws and held it up like a trophy. His siblings immediately tackled him. All three cubs became a rolling pile of fur, claws, and chirping sounds. The ball popped free and bounced away. They all scrambled after it. The door to the Valkyrie quarters opened fully. Scythe stood there, her fur bristling with alarm. She looked ready to fight whatever threat had caused this commotion. Then she saw her cubs. Yuna expected anger. She expected Scythe to yell at the children, to drag them back inside, to give Yuna a look of pure hatred for causing this disruption. Instead, Scythe stood completely still. Her bristling fur slowly relaxed. Her eyes, those sharp green eyes, became soft in a way Yuna had never seen before. "They are playing," Scythe said quietly. She spoke to herself, not to Yuna. They have not played since we left home. Yuna did not know what to say. She stood there, pressed against the wall, watching the cubs chase the ball up and down the hallway. They were so happy, so free, so alive. Saleth looked at Yuna. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Saleth gave Yuna a small nod. Not a cold nod like her husband gave. Something warmer. Something that might have been gratitude. "The ball," Saleth said. "It is yours?" "Yes," Yuna answered. "I am sorry for the noise. I dropped it by accident." Saleth watched her cubs playing. Tal had climbed on top of Rin and was trying to steal the ball from his older brother. Kira was circling them both, waiting for her chance to strike. "Do not apologize," Saleth said. "This is the first time they have been happy since we came to this station." She turned and went back inside her quarters, leaving the door open so she could watch the cubs from inside. Yuna was very late for her meeting that day, but she did not care. She sat on the floor of the hallway and watched 3 predator cubs play with a rubber ball until they were too tired to move. When they finally stopped, panting and lying in a pile of tangled limbs, little Tal looked up at Yuna with his golden eyes. "Human," he said. It was the first word any of the cubs had spoken to her. His voice was small and rough. "More ball tomorrow?" Yuna smiled. "Yes, more ball tomorrow." Tal's tail wagged. It actually wagged like a happy dog. Then he closed his eyes and fell asleep right there in the hallway, the red ball clutched tightly in his small paws. Yuna did not take the ball back. She would find another one somewhere. Or maybe she would ask her mother to send more. Something told her she was going to need a lot more toys. Word spread quickly on Horizon 7. Nothing stayed secret for long on a space station. People lived close together. They talked. They gossiped. And the story of the human who made Velthury cubs play was too strange to keep quiet. Within a week, everyone knew about the ball. Yuna noticed the changes immediately. Other species looked at her differently when she walked through the station. Some looked curious. Some looked confused. A few looked annoyed. But everyone looked. "You are the human with the toy," said a Dreth trader one afternoon. The Dreth were crystalline beings, their bodies made of living mineral that sparkled in the light. This one was short and had a pinkish color. "I heard you made the Velthury cubs act like common animals." "I did not make them do anything," Yuna said carefully. "I dropped a ball. They chose to chase it." The Dreth made a grinding sound that might have been laughter. Velthury do not play. Everyone knows this. They are predators. They are serious. They have dignity. "Maybe everyone was wrong," Yuna said. The Dreth looked at her for a long moment, then walked away shaking its crystalline head. But not everyone disapproved. Some species seemed fascinated. A group of Morvith, small reptilian creatures with bright scales, asked Yuna many questions about human toys. What were they made of? How did they work? Why did humans give toys to children? Yuna tried to explain. Toys help children learn. They help develop coordination and problem-solving skills. But more than that, toys help children have fun. They help children be happy. The Morvith looked at each other with their big lizard eyes. "Fun," one of them repeated slowly. "This is important to humans?" "Very important," Yuna said. "We believe that play is necessary for healthy development. Children who play become better adults." The Morvith seemed to think about this for a long time. Then they left without saying anything more. Meanwhile, the hallway games continued every evening. Yuna had sent a message to her mother asking for more toys. Her mother had responded with a package that arrived on the next supply ship. Inside were bouncy balls of different sizes and colors, a laser pointer, several feathers tied to strings, and one large, cardboard box that had originally held snacks. Each item created new chaos. The laser pointer was the most dangerous. Yuna turned it on and pointed the red dot at the wall. 3 Velthury cubs immediately went insane. They climbed the walls. They jumped at the ceiling. They ran in circles so fast they became blurry. Little Tal actually knocked himself unconscious trying to catch the dot as it moved across the floor. He woke up a minute later and immediately started chasing it again. Yuna had to limit laser pointer time to 10 minutes per day. Any longer, and the cubs would hurt themselves. The feathers were almost as exciting. Yuna would wave a feather on a string, and the cubs would stalk it like it was real prey. They would crouch low, their tails swishing, their eyes locked on the target. Then they would pounce. Even Rin, the serious eldest cub, could not resist the feathers. He would pretend he was just supervising, then suddenly leap 3 feet in the air to catch one. But the cardboard box was special. Yuna put the box in the hallway just to see what would happen. Tal found it first. He looked at it from all angles. He sniffed it. He poked it with one careful paw. Then he climbed inside and refused to come out. The box became Tal's fortress. He would hide inside and ambush his siblings when they walked past. He would drag the box around the hallway, moving his fortress to new strategic locations. He would sleep in the box, eat in the box, and growl at anyone who tried to take the box away. Kira and Rin were jealous. They wanted boxes too. Yuna had to order more cardboard boxes from the supply ship. Now each cub had their own fortress. The hallway looked ridiculous, full of boxes and balls and feathers, but nobody seemed to care. Well, almost nobody. Commander Tarek watched from the doorway of his quarters every evening. He never participated. He never spoke. He just stood there with his arms crossed, his face showing nothing. Other species on the station whispered about him. They said he must be angry. They said he was losing control of his family. They said the human was making him look weak. Yuna worried about this. She did not want to cause problems between Tarek and his family. She did not want to damage his reputation. Maybe she should stop the games. Maybe she was going too far. One evening, she decided to apologize. She walked up to Commander Tarek while the cubs were playing. "Commander," she said respectfully, "I want to say sorry if I have caused you any trouble. I can stop bringing toys if you prefer. I do not want to make things difficult for you." Tarek looked down at her. His yellow eyes were impossible to read. "Why would you stop?" he asked. His voice was deep and rough. "I have heard people talking. They say I am making your family look bad. They say Velthury should not play like this. I do not want to hurt your honor." Tarek was silent for a moment. Then he made a sound low in his chest. It took Yuna a second to realize it was laughter. "You think I care what others say?" He turned to watch his cubs. Tal had just jumped out of his box and landed on Kira's back. They rolled across the floor in a ball of fur and happy sounds. My cubs did not sleep well for 6 months after we came to this station. They missed our homeworld. They missed running through forests and climbing mountains. They missed being young. He looked back at Yuna. "You gave them back something I could not give them. You gave them joy. I do not care if the entire galaxy thinks I am weak. My children are happy. That is all that matters." Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes. She blinked them away quickly. "Thank you," she said softly. Tarek nodded once. Then something strange happened. A ball bounced past his feet. His eyes followed it. His tail, which had been hanging still behind him, began to twitch. Just a little. Just for a second. Yuna pretended not to notice. But she was smiling. The games continued. More and more creatures came to watch. Some stayed at the far end of the hallway, too shy or too proud to come closer. Others moved nearer, fascinated by the sight of predator cubs acting like playful children. One evening, a young Dreth appeared. It was smaller than the trader Una had met before, probably a child. Its crystalline body was pale blue. It stood alone, watching the Velthury cubs with wide mineral eyes. Una walked over to it. "Would you like to play?" she asked. The young Dreth looked at her, then at the cubs, then back at her. "Dreth do not play," it said. But it did not leave. Una smiled. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small wind-up toy. It was a little bird that could walk and flap its wings. She wound it up and set it on the floor. The toy bird walked in a circle, making small clicking sounds. The young Dreth's crystalline body began to glow with soft light. It was beautiful. It reached out one mineral hand and touched the bird gently. "What is this?" it asked with wonder in its voice. "This is a toy," Una said. "It is for fun." The young Dreth watched the bird until it stopped moving. Then it looked up at Una. "More?" it asked. Una wound up the toy again. By the end of the evening, the young Dreth was sitting with the Velthury cubs, watching them play with the balls and feathers. It did not join in directly. Dreth were not built for running and jumping. But it was there. It was part of the group. It was not alone. Una looked at the hallway filled with children of different species. Predators and crystalline beings. Cubs and hatchlings. All of them together. All of them happy. This was something new. This was something important. And it was only the beginning. 6 months had passed since the council hearing. Horizon 7 had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. The hallway outside Una's quarters was no longer called the Human Ambassador's Corridor. Everyone on the station now called it the Play Hall. It had become famous. Visitors from other stations came just to see it. Scientists studied it. Parents brought their children there. Una stood at the end of the hall one evening and watched the chaos unfold. The 3 Velthury cubs were there, of course. But they were not alone anymore. The young Dreth, who had loved the wind-up bird, now came every day with its siblings. They could not run or jump, but they had found their own way to play. They would stack blocks and build towers, their crystalline bodies glowing with different colors as they worked together. A group of Morvith hatchlings had joined the games. They were small and quick, perfect for chasing balls. They had learned to play with the Velthury cubs without getting hurt. The predator cubs were surprisingly gentle with the smaller reptiles. Even a few adults participated now. A Dreth elder would sometimes sit and watch the block building, offering advice. A Morvith parent had taught all the children a game from their homeworld that involved rolling stones in patterns. The most surprising addition was Commander Vor Atidot after the council hearing. He had disappeared for several weeks. Rumors said he was embarrassed. Rumors said he was planning revenge. Rumors said many things. Then, one evening, he appeared in the play hall. Everyone stopped. The cubs froze. The adults tensed. Una felt her heart beat faster. Varth walked to the center of the hallway. He was carrying something in his massive paws. It was a toy. A traditional Velthury hunting toy from the old times, made of leather and feathers. Una had read about them in her training. They were used to teach young cubs how to stalk and pounce. "I found this in storage," Vorth said. His voice was gruff. He did not look at anyone directly. "My grandmother made it. I played with it when I was small. I forgot that I had played. I forgot many things." He set the toy on the ground. "I was wrong," he said simply. Then he turned and walked away. But he came back the next day. And the day after. He never played directly with the children, but he would watch. Sometimes he would demonstrate hunting techniques. Sometimes he would tell stories about the old days on the Velthury homeworld, when cubs would run through forests and play games that had been played for thousands of years. The children loved his stories. Even the non-Velthari children would gather around to listen. Voreth was gruff and awkward, but he was trying. That was what mattered. Yuna received a package from Earth on the supply ship. It was larger than usual. When she opened it, she found a crate filled with toys, games, puzzles, and books. There was also a letter from her mother, Yunji. The letter said, "Dear Yuna, your father and I heard about what you have been doing. We are so proud of you. We always knew you would do something important, but we never imagined this. You are changing the galaxy one toy at a time. I asked all our neighbors to donate toys from their children. Everyone wanted to help. The whole town is talking about our daughter, the space ambassador, who teaches aliens how to play. Your grandmother says you get this from her. She might be right. Please send pictures of the alien children if you can. I want to see them playing. With all my love, Mom." Yuna read the letter 3 times. She cried a little. Then she started unpacking the toys. There were dolls and action figures, building blocks and puzzle boxes, toy cars and spinning tops, jump ropes and playing cards. Simple things. Human things. But each one was a gift from someone back home who wanted to help. Yuna distributed the toys throughout the play hall. Different species were drawn to different things. The Morvith loved the spinning tops. The Dreth became obsessed with the puzzle boxes. The Velthari cubs immediately claimed the action figures and created elaborate stories about brave warriors having adventures. The hallway was never quiet anymore. It was filled with sounds of playing and laughing and arguing and making up. It was messy and loud and absolutely wonderful. One evening, after the games had wound down and most of the children had gone home to sleep, Yuna sat on the floor of the hallway. She was exhausted. Her body ached from running around with cubs and hatchlings all day. But she was smiling. Little Tall was asleep on her lap. He'd grown bigger in the past months, but he still loved to curl up against her like a giant furry cat. His purring vibrated through her whole body. It was incredibly soothing. Kira and Rin were nearby, pretending to be asleep, but actually whispering to each other about plans for tomorrow's games. Yuna could hear them plotting something involving the cardboard boxes and the Morvith hatchlings. The young Dreth was still there too, carefully arranging its block tower one last time before going home. Its crystalline body glowed soft blue in the dim hallway light. Commander Tarak approached and sat down beside Yuna. It was not the first time he had done this. Over the months, they had developed a strange friendship. They did not talk much. They did not need to. They would just sit together and watch the children. "You have changed everything," Tarak said quietly. "I just dropped the ball," Yuna replied. Tarak made the rumbling sound that was his version of a laugh. "You did much more than that. You reminded us of something we forgot. Something important. What is that?" He was silent for a moment, looking at his sleeping son. Tall's whiskers twitched as he dreamed of chasing something. "My people will study humans for generations," Tarak said. "We will try to understand your wars, your technology, your ability to survive against all odds. We will analyze your history and your science and your art. Our scholars will write many books about the human species." He turned to look at Yuna. His yellow eyes were warm in a way she had never seen before. "But I think the scholars will miss the truth," he continued. "They will focus on the big things, the impressive things. They will try to find the secret to human power in your weapons, or your intelligence, or your determination. What is the truth?" Yuna asked. Tarak reached out and gently touched the red ball that lay nearby. The same ball that had started everything. It was worn now, a little faded, but still perfectly round and bouncy. "The truth is this," he said. "Humans remembered how to play." Yuna thought about this. She thought about her mother sending toys across the galaxy. She thought about her neighbors back home donating gifts for alien children they would never meet. She thought about her grandmother, who had apparently played games of her own when she was young. Humans played. It was part of who they were. They played games and made toys and found joy in simple things like bouncing bowls and spinning tops. They never forgot that life was supposed to have fun in it. They never stopped being children in some small way. Maybe that was their greatest strength. Not their weapons or their technology. Just their ability to find happiness in a red rubber ball. "Thank you," Tarek said. "For what?" "For being human." Una smiled. Tall stirred on her lap, mumbled something about boxes, and went back to sleep. Outside the station, the stars burned in the endless dark. Billions of worlds circled billions of suns. Countless species lived and died across the galaxy, building empires and fighting wars and struggling to survive. But in one small hallway on one small station, children of different worlds played together. They chased balls and built towers and made friends. They laughed and grew and learned. It was not a grand achievement. It would not be written in history books. But it was something real. Something good. Something that mattered. The galaxy was very large and very cold. But the play hall was warm. And that was enough. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning. It was official. It was formal. It was trouble. Ambassador Una Park was ordered to appear before the Galactic Council to address a formal complaint. The complaint had been filed against her personally. The charges were serious: disrupting station peace, corrupting alien youth, and showing disrespect to Velthari cultural traditions. Una read the message 3 times. Her hands were shaking. She knew who had filed the complaint before she even saw the name. Commander Vorath. He was another high-ranking Velthari officer who lived on a different level of the station. He was known for being traditional and strict. He believed the old ways were the only ways. He had been speaking against Tarek's family for weeks, calling them weak and corrupted. Now he had made his attack official. The council chamber was enormous. It was built to hold representatives from every species on the station. Hundreds of seats rose in circles around a central platform. When Una walked in, she felt very small, very human, very alone. The seats were mostly full. Word had spread about the complaint, and everyone wanted to see what would happen. Una spotted familiar faces in the crowd. The Dreth trader she had spoken to. Several Morvith in the upper rows. The young Dreth child who had played with the wind-up bird. She also saw Commander Tarek sitting with his family in the Velthari section. Salaith was beside him, her green eyes fixed on Una. The 3 cubs sat in a row, their ears flat with worry. Little Tao was holding something in his paws. It took Una a moment to realize it was the red ball. They had brought the ball to the council hearing. The council leader was an ancient being of a species Una did not recognize. It had too many arms and a face like melted wax. When it spoke, its voice echoed through the chamber. "We are here to address a formal complaint against Human Ambassador Una Park. The complainant is Commander Vorath of the Velthari delegation. Commander Vorath, please present your case." Vorath stood. He was even larger than Tarek, with pure black fur and eyes like burning coals. When he spoke, his voice dripped with disgust. "This human has brought shame to our species. She has encouraged Velthari cubs to behave like prey animals, rolling on the floor, chasing objects, making sounds that are beneath our dignity. The Velthari are the greatest predators in the galaxy. We ruled our world through strength and discipline. We do not play. We do not chase toys. We do not act like helpless children." He pointed at Tarek's family. Commander Tarek was once a warrior respected by all. Now his cubs are known across the station as pets of the human. They have become a joke. This human has corrupted them with her alien ideas. She must be punished, and these games must be stopped. The chamber was silent. Yuna could feel hundreds of eyes on her. She was supposed to speak now, to defend herself, but her throat was tight with fear. Then Commander Turak stood up. The chamber went even more silent. Turak and Vorath had served together in the Velthri military. They had been rivals for decades. Everyone knew this. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. Turak walked slowly to the central platform. His steps were heavy. His presence was overwhelming. Even Vorath took a small step back. Turak spoke first in the formal Velthri tongue. The sounds were deep and rolling, like distant thunder. Then he switched to the common galactic language so everyone could understand. Commander Vorath speaks of dignity. He speaks of tradition. He speaks of what Velthri should be. Turak paused. But he does not speak of our children. He turned to face the whole chamber. My cubs came to this station 6 months ago. They left behind everything they knew. Their forests, their mountains, their friends. They were put in a metal box in empty space and told to be strong, to be silent, to be proper Velthri. His voice became softer. They tried. They followed the rules. They did not complain. But they stopped sleeping. They stopped eating well. They stopped smiling. They were not cubs anymore. They were small, sad copies of adults, trying to carry weight too heavy for their young shoulders. He looked at Yuna. Then the human came. She did not try to change us. She did not try to teach us. She simply dropped a ball, and my youngest son remembered how to be young. Vorath made a disgusted sound. This is exactly what I mean. She has made your cubs weak. She has made them forget who they are. No, Turak's voice was suddenly sharp as a blade. She has made them remember who they are. They are children. They are supposed to play. They are supposed to laugh and run and make noise. This is not weakness. This is life. He turned back to the chamber. My people have forgotten something important. We were so focused on being strong that we forgot how to be happy. We taught our children that joy was weakness, that play was shameful, that silence was better than laughter. And we wonder why so many of our young ones grow up cold and empty. He pointed at Varth. You call my cubs weak because they play with toys. But they are healthier now than they have been in months. They sleep well. They eat well. They have friends from other species. They are becoming strong in ways that matter. Not just strong bodies, but strong hearts. Vorath opened his mouth to respond. But before he could speak, a small shape ran across the chamber floor. It was Tal. The little cub had escaped from his seat and was running toward the central platform. Salaith tried to grab him, but missed. Rin and Kira watched with wide eyes. Tal ran right up to Commander Vorath. The massive Velthri looked down at the tiny cub with surprise. Then Tal held up the red ball. Want to play? He asked in his small, rough voice. Playing is fun. You look sad. Maybe you need to play. The chamber was completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Vorath stared at the ball. His face was impossible to read. His yellow eyes reflected the bright red color of the rubber. Then his eye twitched. His tail, which had been completely still, moved just a little bit. His paw flexed, claws extending just slightly. Tal rolled the ball toward Vareth's feet. The ball bumped gently against Vareth's foot and stopped. Every eye in the chamber was on Vorath. The great warrior. The defender of tradition. The Velthri who believed play was beneath his dignity. His paw moved. Just a little. Just enough to touch the ball. Then, before he could stop himself, he batted it. Just once. Just a small tap. The ball rolled away. Vorath realized what he had done. His eyes went wide. He looked at his own paw like it had betrayed him. His fur bristled with embarrassment. Someone in the crowd made a sound. It might have been a laugh. Then another sound. Then another. Soon, the entire chamber was filled with the sounds of different species laughing in different ways. Chirping and clicking and rumbling and ringing. They were not laughing at Varth. They were laughing at the situation, at the absurdity of it, at the simple truth that had just been demonstrated. The instinct to play was not weakness. It was universal. Even Varth, the great warrior, could not resist a bouncy ball. The council leader made a wet sound that might have been its version of laughter. "I believe we have seen enough," it said. "The complaint against Ambassador Park is dismissed. The evidence suggests that her actions have caused no harm and may in fact have provided benefit to multiple species on this station. This hearing is concluded." Voreth stood frozen for a moment. Then, without a word, he turned and walked out of the chamber. His dignity was damaged, but something else had happened too. Just before he disappeared through the door, Unison looked back at the red ball. There was something in his eyes that had not been there before. Curiosity. Tau picked up the ball and ran back to his family. Tarek caught him and lifted him up. The commander's stern face broke into something that might have been a smile. "You are trouble," Tarek said to his son. "Good trouble," Tal replied. Tarek could not argue with that.